Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's talk. This is Canada's Technology Triangle.net user group. I have here Anthony Giretti to talk to us about ASP.NET Core 7. Anthony, welcome.
Hello, Karan. Hello, everyone.
Okay, Anthony, you can go ahead and start your presentation. I'll mute myself and stop my video, but if you need questions, just let me know.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Giretti. I'm senior software developer. For those who don't know me, I'm a Canadian, French, and Italian developer. I'm also Microsoft MVP, and I live in Montreal. Today, I will introduce you the novelties of ASP.NET Core 7. I won't detail feature of .NET 7. I will focus mainly on ASP.NET Core 7. So let's go. So what we'll do, I will make some introduction a bit about .NET 7, but I won't go in detail. We will go further on ASP.NET Core 7 features, and I will provide some demos. Let's go. So first off, as you may know, ASP.NET Core 7 ships with .NET 7 and C# 11, available since November 2022, so it's very recent. And as you have probably heard before, it's a non-LTS version like .NET 5, and the end of life is for next May, not next May, May of the next year, 2024. What we could say about .NET 7, not that much. It's very a light update. It's a .NET unfinished. No, it's a finished .NET 6. .NET 6 missed some feature. And what we could say about .NET 7, it's really faster. There is a big improvement on performances. Native AOT is faster. Memory needs is very lower. It needs less memory. I mean, the startup, the warming up, the warm up of the application is very fast, and it takes lower disk space. So that's pretty good, especially if you wanna create some Docker images. Docker images are very light, for example. What's new in .NET 7 in highlights? So as you may have heard, unification between Blazor and .NET MAUI should have been made in .NET 6. Finally, it has been shipped with .NET 7. They encountered also many issues, many bugs, so they delayed it to .NET 7. A new feature that we all discovered with .NET 6 is a hot reload. Now, hot reload is really more performant, really faster. Some major improvement in system text.json API. For example, we have new attributes. For example, JSON required property did not exist before. It was present with Newtonsoft. Wasn't the case with system text.json. That time only, sorry, there is a mistake in my slide, and time only now support microsecond and nanosecond. Wasn't the case before. New statistic on cache utilization wasn't available before. tar archives are now multi-platform. It was only for Windows before. Reflection is really more performant. So for those who like reflection, now performance has been increased by 3, so you can use it as you wish if you want. Upgrade assistants are really more reliable. They do less mistakes. Wasn't the case before. For example, with .NET 5 and .NET 6 upgrade assistant from .NET Core 3.1, I had a ton of issues. Now it's really more reliable and many others. So as I said, I won't go in detail with .NET 7, but that's pretty much it. Sorry. Just before going through ASP.NET Core 7 feature, I just want to mention you the fact is Microsoft did not put a lot of effort with MVC, Web API controllers. They put a ton of effort with Blazor, which won't be part of this presentation today. They put a ton of efforts on minimal APIs instead. So 90% of the new feature will introduce you concerns only minimal APIs. Some feature are available on controllers, not a lot, and we will see that at the end. And there is some new features as well on gRPC. I will show it to you too. First one, and it's really, really convenient, and it wasn't the case before. When you want to upload a file before .NET 7, so with .NET 6 and .NET 5, you weren't able to use iForm file interface like in a Web API controller. It was an HTTP request, and you had to fetch the file from the request form and create the file from the stream. Wasn't really convenient. So they improved it a bit, and now they provide the same file as a stream from any form file. So I wish they will improve it in .NET 8. What I mean is I would love to having the file directly bound into a variable. I don't like to create a physical file from a stream. What consequence it has? It's for Swagger mainly. So as you can see, there is one one line of code in less, but the main difference is for Swagger. So if you use Swagger now with minimal APIs, you will have the file upload button input form. I mean, in Swagger, it wasn't the case before. I will show you in the demo. So it's pretty convenient. Next one, we have Swagger again. Minimal APIs improves again the documentation, Open API documentation. They improve Swagger description. Wasn't possible before to add a description on parameters. So now it's possible programmatically, and you just need to add the with API, Open API extension method on any minimal API endpoint. What you need before is to download the NuGet package, Microsoft ASP.NET Core .OpenAPI. It's not installed by default. You need to fetch it by yourself, and you can add description. It's a bit verbose, maybe, yes, but it's efficient. It works. Nice new feature for minimal APIs. Next one. Interesting there. It was possible for a long time with Web API controllers. The fact to pass into a URL or headers a collection of items, I mean an array of IDs, for example. So it was definitely possible in a controller, and now since ASP.NET Core 7, you can do it with minimal APIs. So it's very easy. You just have to, regarding a query string, add an array of integer of whatever, depend the type of the parameter you have, and it will map it automatically. So that's magical. You have nothing to do. It's also possible to use another kind of parameter. It's not an array itself, like an array of int for IDs. You can use string values. String values is a struct that carries any collection of item from the URL. So if you want to apply it to the first example, it would still be a string values, but IDs, integers, would be cast into strings. So using string values will always provide you a collection of string, and then you probably have to cast them. Unlike the first version of the binding arrays, the framework does it for you. It casts for you in integers, if it's an integer. If it's a collection of GUIDs, it will provide you an array of GUIDs. If you use string values, it will be a collection of string. You will have to cast them in a GUID yourself. And the third example now is from headers. You can also pass a collection of items with the same ID, obviously, from the header, but unlike query string parameters, you have to use the attributes from header. This is working fine, no problem, but there is a bug with Swagger. It doesn't work as expected, and I will show you in the demo what's going on. It's really interesting, but you can make it work for sure with an HTTP client. Don't worry. You can make it work with Postman. I will show you how to, but from Swagger, it won't work. Next one. There is a new overload for result.stream. So as you may know, minimal APIs provide static methods that provide you a way to send result to your client. So you may know result.ok, result.notContent, etc. So result.stream has been improved and takes now a delegate. A delegate, why? I will make it shorter. In a short way, I would say it's for performance regarding file you want to download. The delegate will increase the performance by making the framework avoiding to create a buffer. What I mean is when you send the response directly to the client, ASP.NET Core create a buffer from the original source and send it. So if you have large file, it's not really performance. So now ASP.NET Core 7 provide the delegate, which will be used directly, used from the response stream object, and won't create any buffer. So no duplication, and so you will save performances. I will show you in the demo too. Another great thing is the testability of minimal APIs. It was hard before to unit test. So now Microsoft is providing types that matches the result dot OK, result dot not content, etc., etc., extension static method to be returned to the client. What you need to do, it's not installed by default. You have to download the following package: Microsoft ASP.NET Core HTTP results, and provide extension for unit testing. So now, if you want to test easily an endpoint that return OK response with an object person, you can make it, and you can mock your endpoint and cast it as an OK person. Wasn't possible before. I will show you how to make it testable, because there is another thing. You cannot unit test directly a minimal endpoint. You have to create a delegate that will be executed by the minimal endpoint. So the code is encapsulated into a delegate, and the minimal endpoint will execute the delegate. We'll show you in the demo. That's the best practice. Keep in mind. Interesting again, it's about endpoint grouping. This is very interesting for Swagger 2. I will show you before. Endpoint grouping is what you are able to group in an extension method several endpoints, so you can group some endpoint that belongs to a same scope. In my example, I'm using endpoint grouping for API versioning. That's interesting because it wasn't the goal before, but you can group a bunch of endpoints on a certain version. How do we make it? I create an extension method on road group builder. Inside, I apply to the group builder a minimal endpoint with the parent you want and the result to be sent to the client. So you can definitely use this injection dependency, no problem there. You just have to pass in the handler parameter the service you want to use. No problem, it will work. The thing is, when you apply it to the ASP.NET Core pipeline, you can check on the right. You can assign a base URL, so /v1, and for the group 2 /v2, for example. And this is really great because you can chain constraints. For example, you can add a course policy. You can add several course policy. You can declare it as anonymous, or you can declare it as requiring an authorization. You can add tags for Swagger. You can do everything you want, and it's pretty much readable. This is for readability, but you'll see in Swagger demo, Swagger recognize all that endpoints, so they will appear as you have declared one by one in the program.cs. So it doesn't change anything for Swagger. You will show it at the end again in the demo. Another thing is endpoint grouping reusable segment. What does it mean? You can apply endpoint grouping to several minimal endpoints, but you can reuse a segment. What does it mean? You can create a base URI. You can create just for your information, I need to precise. Reusable segment means the URL, the root, itself, the root and its parameter binding, okay? So you can add a base root, you can add a root, a subroot, because you can chain it with a parameter, for example, country slash country ID. Same for language. And you can mix all of them to create an endpoint language that takes in the root the country, the language. So you can, for example, have slash country slash CA, like Canada, and slash FR or English in the format you want. And you can expose then your endpoint. So this is about simply reusing segment from the URL. It's not a way to group, it's about to reuse a subpart of the URL. And you can add again and again segment. You can build a time zone URL from the country and language, and you can chain it slash country, slash time zone, etc., etc. Very practical. And once again, Swagger isn't confused. It will recognize all the endpoints and will list you in the Swagger HTML, which I will show it to you right after too in the demo. Next one. I'm sure you like to use filters, action filters with API controller. Now it's available in minimal API. So in any minimal endpoint, you can add a filter name add endpoint filter. So this is an extension applied on the minimal endpoint. You can act before the execution of the minimal endpoint, like any action filter in MVC and API controller, and act right after, before returning the result. So this is pretty good. This was a feature I have expected for a while, because you could not act on the response and of the request, like MVC, for example. Really, really interesting. Another interesting rate limiting, a new feature. First off, if you don't know rate limiting, the purpose is to limit access to a certain endpoint. So it's a pretty new feature in ASP.NET Core itself. I mean, in the code base. But if you regularly use a cloud provider which provides a gateway or whatever to manage your endpoint, you should use it in your cloud provider, because to me, filtering requests in the application itself is not the right way. It should be upfront in the cloud provider. But if you have no choice, if you are, for example, using a VM or whatever without any gateway, etc., you can use rate limiting in ASP.NET Core itself. What you can do is to a certain period, mean window. A window is a time frame when you want to limit the access. So let's say, for example, 10 seconds. So during 10 seconds, you can limit the access to a certain endpoint. In my example, I put 1. So one endpoint can be accessed at the same time during a time frame of 10 seconds. But if you are limiting the access, there is a queue. So people who are waiting for can be queued and wait to be treated as a new request. So you can parameterize the processing order of the queue. If you 3 people before are trying to reach the endpoint and they can during a time frame of 10 seconds, who will be treated in first? Oldest first on US first, for example. And the queue limit is the number of queue. This is interesting, but it doesn't work. In the next demo I will provide you, you'll see rate limiting is working fine, but since, and I don't have still the answer, since you put a queue limit 1 to 10 or whatever the number, it doesn't work as expected, because you are supposed to receive a status, the status you want for sure. So too many requests is fine for that kind of feature, and you'll get a response message. But since you put a queue limit, whatever the number, rejection status code and the message won't show up. And I still don't know why. Nobody answered me at Microsoft. How to enable it so you can add in the pipeline the policy. Oh, I forgot. You can, there are so many options. I will not show you all the possible options, but you can filter by headers, you can filter by URL, and IP, etc., etc. So it's a very rich API. You can parameterize it as you wish. So let's go back now on how to use it. So you add it in the pipeline, okay? And you had it in the service, you parameterize it, but to activate it, you have to apply enable rate limiting attributes with the policy name on endpoints you want to limit the access. Another demo is coming too. Now it's more about ASP.NET Core in general. I'm sure you used to know what was from service attribute. It was an attribute that allowed you to use injection dependency in action and not from the constructor. So if you put from services any interface that you have registered in the DI, you could use it straight on an action and not by the constructor. It's still working, but you don't need it, since it's possible now to use implicit DI. So you don't need the from services attribute. But if you want to turn it off, that possibility, you can go on your program.cs and apply disable implicit from service parameters, and you will be forced to apply from services attributes. On my end, I prefer the implicit way, less verbose, so that's simpler. Next one. Now let's go to gRPC a bit. There is a very great new feature with gRPC. So if you hesitate between binary and HTTP2 with gRPC and REST, now you can use both at the same time. So you can use and expose a gRPC service and serve some, all your endpoint in REST too. So what to do? You have to download the NuGet package, Microsoft ASP.NET Core gRPC JSON transcoding, download some proto file, HTTP proto and annotation proto, store them at the root of your gRPC project, and import it into your proto file. And what you have to do is, for any endpoint you want, it's not mandatory to expose all of them as a REST endpoint. Just use option Google API and provide the verb and the URL segment you want to expose via REST. And that's it. So on a gRPC service, you just have to add JSON transcoding extension method, and you'll be able to consume at the same time the gRPC endpoint with HTTP in binary in REST. If by any chance you are using gRPC web, you can use gRPC web at the same time. You can use gRPC and REST all at the same time, up to you. So a same endpoint will be exposed in 3 ways. That's pretty interesting if you hesitate between gRPC and REST. But the good practice to me would be, okay, you want to provide endpoints with the most performant way. So you will lose definitely gRPC, but you have some clients who can't, because the technology, or who don't want to implement gRPC on the side. So what you can do, you can use, if you are using the same endpoint internally in your apps, you can expose it with gRPC and consume it as a gRPC endpoint. And if you are exposing the same endpoint to your customers, you'll be able to expose it via REST. I haven't put it in my slide, but you can. It's still work in progress, but they are trying to add Swagger on gRPC just to show to the client gRPC endpoints that are turned on into a REST endpoint. So it will be possible soon, or maybe it is. I haven't checked for a while. Sorry for that. If your V1 greeter name is exposable from a Swagger, but Microsoft is actively working on it. If it's not done yet, it will be available soon. So really interesting. New feature, which is also interesting with gRPC, there weren't any health check feature before. Now it's possible. So there are 2 parts, the server side and the client side. So let's check a bit server side, how you have to implement it. So like ASP.NET Core in general, you can add a check. So you provide a URL, okay, so a segment. Here it's health, and provide the logic that will check how healthy is your application. So you will try to connect to a DB. If it's not, it will return unhealthy, but for the demo purpose, I return always healthy, okay? But you can definitely parameterize it and customize it, I mean, like you did for a Web API controller or whatever. How to do that? You need also to download the NuGet package, gRPC, ASP.NET Core.health checks, which is not never installed by default when you create a gRPC project. What you have to do is to configure two parameters, the delay and the period. So since when you want to expose your status. So delay is the time from when you have started up your application. So I strongly suggest you to put 0. So since the application starts, you can expose your health check. So any client will be able to check since the app start the status of the server app. What period? So it's a bit different from a web API, it's pushing the results. So it's updating every 3 seconds if you want. So this is named the period. And yes, you can push to the client changes every the status, that also changes. I will show it to you in the client, because the client will receive only changes. So every 3 seconds, if the status change, it will push the new status. If the status doesn't change, it won't push anything. Important, because I struggled during 1 hour to get my status. I set it up for 3 seconds, and I haven't had any status for 3 seconds because the status did not change. That's why. So I put a random logic that breaks, erase an exception randomly, and I've been able to get my status at some point. So you had the health check in the pipeline, like any service in ASP.NET Core, and you apply it, you make it available with the map gRPC health check service extension method. I will make a demo also right after. Next one, the client side health check. So unlike the server, which was gRPC ASP.NET Core health check, on client side, you will have to download the gRPC health check package. How does it work? You create a channel, you pass it as a parameter to health client, and you have now 2 possibilities. You can check the status with a unary method. If for those who don't know what is how gRPC works, you have 4 kinds of endpoint unary. So 1 request, 1 response, like fire and forget. I would say like an API, in other words. So you have server push streaming, you have client streaming, and you have both directional streaming. So unary is 1 request, 1 response. Okay, and you will have the status each time you will call the unary method. Unlike the watch method, okay, watch method is a streaming endpoint, server streaming. And what does it do? It reads all changes. So as I said, it's not because you are sending every 3 seconds server side the status, you will get every 3 seconds on client side the status. You will receive it only if it changes. So don't expect it every 3 seconds like me. You will waste 1 hour of your life, unfortunately. But I'm telling you so you won't waste your time. Thank you, Anthony. Next one, the demo. So let's go for the demo. Okay, I think I hope you can see my screen. I think it's better right now.
Yeah, we see your screen, Anthony.
Is it okay? Yeah?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so let's try the rate limiting. So I disabled the queue limit. So I'm supposed in a 10-second time frame to have only 1 request permitted. So let's try it. Let's try it. I need to launch my ASP.NET Core app. Okay. Drag and drop is not working correctly. Yeah. Okay. So here is the Swagger, but first off, let's go to the rate limiting. So the endpoint was named test limit. So I can reach it, but now if I try during 10 seconds to reach it, I will have the status and the message, and it become reachable again after 10 seconds. But if I had a limit, so I can queue only one people, so the first request will pass, the second one will be queued, and the rest will get too many requests. It doesn't work. Let me show you again. Test limit, sorry. Okay, reachable. The second one is queued, so up. It's queued again. It's queued. It's queued, and I should have an error message for a while. So to me, this is a bug. There are 4 requests queued, and they will be processed one by one. It passed, and so on. So to me, there is definitely a bug, and it's, or I don't understand correctly the documentation, but nobody at Microsoft and in the community has been able to help me. So to me, it's a bug. Now, let's go to try the image. So the image download. So I will upload an image which will be downloaded right away and see how fast it is. So as you can see, because I have declared the endpoint with a eForm file interface, I am able now to choose a file. Okay, wasn't the case before. So let's upload a picture and execute it, and it's pretty fast. The download is pretty fast. So I'm using the delegate without any buffer, and the response is quite immediate. Sorry. Now, as I told you, we can pass IDs from headers. Okay, so if I try it out, so I will add ID 1, 2, 3, and execute it. It doesn't work because Swagger puts it automatically in the header with a single entry in the header, but stringify the series of IDs with a separated comma. So unfortunately, there is no workaround for Swagger, but if you are using Postman, I will show you how to make it work. I cannot enlarge the text, but to make it work, okay, headers is to pass yourself the IDs. So it's a collection of ID, and you put 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. And if you execute it, it works. So Swagger makes a single entry like this, and it's not the Microsoft fault. It's OpenAPI fault, swashbuckle, I mean, they have to fix it. Next. What I can show you is the grouping. As you can see, endpoint grouping did not confuse Swagger at all. As you can see, V1 and V2 are well separated, well displayed, /V1 and /V1 ID, /V2 ID. I have created another example with the segment grouping. What else? I think that's pretty much it. No, that's not it. I'm not done. There's another one, the time zone one. Okay, so I have inherited from a country. So I've created a time zone endpoint from a country. I have created a language from a country, and so on. So you can you can create as you want and reuse as you want some segments. So it's perfectly usable, and Swagger is not confused. So now you may wondering why there is a V1, V2, and web app.NET 7 is for the following reason. It's because I have added with tags my group endpoints. So if I add with tags V1 all my other endpoints, they will be included in that section, V1 and V2. By default, this is your project name. Okay. And yeah, unit testable. Okay. The last things to show you there on the Swagger is the unit testable endpoints. So the best practice here, if you want to unit test an endpoint and use injection dependency at the same time, is to not expose your logic in the program.cs. I strongly recommend you to create a delegate. Where is the delegate? It's a public static class which returns a higher result because all results, extension method, static method, not extension method, are typed with high result. They are all high result, I mean. So I can pass my interface there, okay? The injection dependency is not working there. Don't be confused. The injection dependency is there. So any dependency must be declared here, and then they will be passed to the function data. So if you add another service, you have to add it there to map it. If you don't, if it seems not obvious, it's because C# allows delegates actions to be automatically filled with parameters from there. So if you don't put your parameter itself there, you can remove parentheses and let the framework bind the parameters for you. This is a C# feature. It's not a .NET, an ASP.NET Core feature itself. So what does it return? Okay, so it returns an object person. Okay, and now let's say we want to unit test it. Now, it's very easy to unit test because you will unit test that function. Okay, so let's go to the unit test. The unit test class test.net. Okay, and let's go here. So what we want to do, if you're familiar with unit tests, you have to mock the HTTP context accessor. We mock it, okay? We define its behavior, so you can fill it up with a fake HTTP context. I wanted to show you that example because you can definitely unit test HTTP context by using default HTTP context. So how to mock HTTP context is to assign default HTTP context to the current HTTP context, and you will be able to mock it. So now I create my object set my result set, and I will compare if Anthony Gray is well returned as a response. I will show you again the implementation. It's a very simple example. I take from HTTP context the first name and the last name, and I bind it into first name and last name properties of person object. So I'm expecting Anthony and Geraghty person. I'm expecting a package. I'm using a package there, and you may wondering why. I'm using a very interesting feature. Library is expected object. Guess why? It's because I will compare the result returned by my method and the expected object. And the expected result is an object. So you must know that an object is by definition by reference. So you cannot compare two instances of object because even if they have the same values in the properties, it's not the same reference. So two expected objects make an object comparable by its value and not its reference. So if this is a shortcut, I want test property by property in my assertion. So it makes the test more readable. Okay, and what to expect? I'm expecting an answer of result OK. So as you can see, I've downloaded the package Microsoft ASP.NET HTTP result, and I'm expecting an OK response with person. So it transtype it and send the result, and I compare it. So let's test it. Let's go to the test panel. Ah, Jesus. It's executing, it's a bit long, and the test passes. Great. One more thing now is I will show you a demo of the gRPC health check. So set a startup project. And I will show you the JSON transcoding at the same time, because my default launch page can be set up. And as you can see, I have a JSON result from HTTP1 protocol via REST. So as you can see, JSON transcoding is working fine. So for sure, it works for post, etc. It works for every verb. So I haven't made any demo for every verb. But now, since the application is started, let's launch the client now. And we will see what happens. I hope I haven't forgotten the console read line, so the console won't close. Okay. .NET run. And you get the following message: check unary serving, watch stream serving. So you have the message in the console there. So you will get notified once the status is changing. That's pretty much it. If you want to now get the code, you can download it into my GitHub repo. So it's easy. You can find me, Anthony Girardi, on GitHub, and you just have to look for ASP.NET Core 7 demo. And that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Anthony. That was an amazing talk. Lots of demos. We did have a question from the audience, and that is, are you able to share your slide deck anywhere?
Sure. No worries. I will send it to you, Kelon, and you will spread it to everyone. Or you can simply email me to no, there is not my email on my slide, but you can give my email, Kelon, or you can spread it to anyone. No problem.
Okay. And again, if anyone needed to see the source code, you can find up on Anthony's GitHub repository. Lots of great content there, not just for this, but for gRPC and tons of other content that Anthony has shared with the community. I don't know if there's any other questions from anybody, but if not, then this is great. I hope to get back into doing more of these chats and then hopefully in person later this year. I'm looking for a venue right now. So anyone is interested in speaking, just reach out to me. You can reach out to me. Where is the banner? There you go. Just DM me on Twitter at Flying Maverick, and we'll connect, and I can organize something. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Anthony. Much appreciated for your talk, as always. Look forward to next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Have a good evening, all. Good evening, Callan.
Daddy, put it back on.